Okay, it's time to spray another bike. This time I am not using Spray.Bike, I'm using some, in quotation marks, normal paint. I've got a mixture of stuff I've bought off eBay and stuff I picked up from Halfords just to top that up. But yeah, basically it's wet paint, normal paint. I'm going to see how it goes. I'm just in the process of prepping the frame, so I'm sanding it all down with 80 grit, no, 80 grit, 120, 80 or 120, I can't remember. Just to key everything up, and then I'll wipe it all down with some paint preparation rock wipes to get it all clean again. The chrome forks are going to be interesting because, yeah, I don't know if the paint's going to stick to that, we'll see. But I'm going to try and give my feedback like I did with the Spray.Bike, because that paint is powder basically, so it goes everywhere but it doesn't run, whereas the experience I've had with the wet paint, it runs quite easily. So I'm doing this indoors, ventilated, it's probably about 15 degrees inside, and yeah, I'm just going to go through the process. So I'm going to carry on sanding this down because no one wants to see hours of sanding, and then we'll get to the painting. It's so dark and noisy in here. This is 120 grit sandpaper, by the way, that I'm using just to key up the frame, try and get everything smoothed down, and I've taken off all the decals with just a Stanley knife basically. But because this is original paint, it's keying up nicely and flattening back. Oh, I hate prep. It's mostly done now. Just gotta clean it. Yeah. Although I need to do the bottom bracket. I forgot that. Damn it. Hopefully it's rubbed down good enough. But I'm just gonna go around and clean everything now. I'm actually just using some thinners to try and get stuff cleaned off. So, as I said, using some wet paint this time. I've just got this random Auto Extreme Automotive Grey Primer, as well as the Halfords Grey Primer, because these are tiny bottles. So yeah, I guess we're just gonna try and spray with this, see how it goes. Shake can for 2 minutes, upright 25 to 30 centimeters. Let's give it a go. Now I'm just going to do light coats because this is wet. So. So I guess the aim of the game here, as from your comments on previous videos, is not to lay it on thick, it's to try and build up layers. So yeah, that's what I'm going to try and do. Yeah, not to do everything in one go, this is still patchy, so I've got to wait a little bit now and do another coat. Okay, I can give you the first comparison, obviously with wet paint Spray.Bike. No overspray, or nothing that's visible at the moment. With Spray.Bike this would normally be covered in a dust, very visible, but yeah, it's not too bad at the moment. It's gone on nicely, just doing light layers. It has picked up areas where I have failed to prep properly. There's one such thing on the seat stays here. Where is it? There. Very hard to focus on, but yeah, I'll have to sand that down again. But it's going well. 24 hours, and then I'll sand it back again, and then do colour or black. Okay, so while this third can, I'll say, dries, I might as well go through what I've done so far to get to this stage, or get from the primer to this stage. Primer was dried for 24 hours, and then obviously I wanted to add a bit of keying up between the primer and this colour, this top coat. So what I've done is I soaked some wet and dry sandpaper, it was 400 grit, and then obviously mixed with a little bit of washing up liquid. Went over everything with that, then cleaned it off with water, and then cleaned it off again with some paint preparation wipes. You will have seen in the clips that I went through in places, so that was, yeah, it's not too bad, but if you're going for a light finish, then having those splotches will show through, but on the black it should be alright. So ideally I would have done then another coat of primer, in my opinion, again, no expert here. And then I've gone on to this black top coat, so I'm trying to take it in lots of light layers, because this is the stage now where I get runs, or get a bit over the top with it and get runs. So I've used 3 cans already, they're 300ml. I'm not entirely sure if the cans were used to start with, because I've pulled them out the garage. I think most of them were full. One might have been, or 2 might have been like partly used. So 3 cans so far, and it's looking fairly solid, but it's still a light coat. Like, there have been blotchy patches that I've seen, so hopefully this last can will cover up any spots that I may have missed, or maybe light, but it's going to be very difficult now, because I'm going to want to sand, give it a light sand after, sort of like 1500 grit maybe, just to take off any imperfection. I'm going to have to be very, very careful not to go through to the light layer underneath. If I do, I'm going to have to head back to the shops and get another can of black, and spray it again. But yeah, it's not looking too bad. It's not looking too bad. You've really got to, I'm realising you've really got to take your time with this and have it set up nicely in a nice environment, because, well, I've sprayed it outside before in the summer, in the sun and it just goes horribly. And yeah, any wind, it's better indoors, better in a controlled environment, of course. So it's going all right. Okay, one thing I am actually learning here is you need to be able to position your bike frame and bike parts in different positions, because I flipped this over just to check before I sprayed this last can, and even though I thought I'd got a lot of these areas on the bottom, there was still a lot of grey primer showing through. So most of this last can have gone on all these bottom surfaces. So yeah, definitely have the ability to flip your parts around. I am not entirely sure I'm going to be able to sand this back at all. It's very thin, even with 4 cans of 300ml. Oh, and there is a little bit of dust on the floor, like, yeah, you can see. Nothing compared to obviously the dry sprayed up bike, but yeah, wet paint does leave overspray as well, just not as much. I braved it. Everything has now had a 1200 grit wet sand, just very light, just to take off any dust particles or anything that fell in it. And now, clear coat. Well, I know it's just plain black, but I am much happier with this finish this time. Yeah, it just takes a little bit longer to do the wet spray, because you've got to control it, you've got to watch out for the runs. But although I've learnt stuff from this, from doing the sprayed up bike, from looking at the comments and stuff, it's still not perfect, not just yet. And I would still say, although it's fun to do, the longevity of a Rattle can job is still not going to be anywhere near as much as a proper spray job or a powder coat. So although it's fun, it's probably going to chip easy, but I have prepared this one a lot better, so hopefully it won't. So yes, I know the headset isn't on properly yet, for some reason it's not clamping down, but you can see the finish I've managed to get on this top tube here, as best as I can get it, because it is flat black, so it's not picking up any. There is some like little rust spots, tiny little dimples, but the smoothness of the paint itself is a heck of a lot better. There was no powdery overspray left on the frame, which you would normally get in, you know, these hard to reach places here, on the seat stay bridge, on the chain stay bridge. With the sprayed up bike, there's none of that with normal wet paint. And yeah, the finish from the cans I used is a lot glossier, a lot smoother, very smooth. In fact, I think it will show it a bit better here. Again, top tube, I tried to make sure I put a decent amount of lacquer on here, and tried to, you know, I found out rotating the frame helped, so you could try and cover all places. The very, very, very light coats didn't seem to be working too well, so I did go a little bit heavier, and it did come up with this, there's like a fine balance. I had to find the fine balance, and then it got this nice smooth finish in the end, which I am really happy with. But in contrast, and I am struggling to show this properly because of the flat black here, down the seat stays It's more of a matte colour. It's almost like, I don't know, it seems like for somehow, even though I was rotating the frame, there's still some of the grey primer showing through. I don't think that's the case. I think spraying quick light bursts of the lacquer may have dappled, is that right? And yeah, it's not a good look, not compared to the top tube anyway. Maybe with a wet sand that would smooth out and polish up, but I'm a little slightly loath to try that. I was already a bit worried to wet sand the frame after the black, but I did that with, what did I say, 1200 or 1500, one of them, just a very light wet sand, and that took away any dust that had fallen in. It was beautifully smooth. But yeah, it's back to being not textured like the Spray.Bike overspray, but it's a very, very fine texture to it, and it is more of a satin / matte colour. And just to show there's none of that dusty overspray that makes it super textured with the Spray.Bike, yeah, there's none of it down here where it would normally gather. And seeing as I've only wet sanded with 1500, and I did the last Spray.Bike frame I did sand that back a little bit as well. Yeah, you can tell how much of a difference a wet paint can make. So yeah, that's my experience. I've done my experience with the initial Spray.Bike, which did get better with the second time, and now with the wet spray first time. Obviously I'm learning more each time. Things can only get better, right? So I will keep on spraying and keep on feeding back the results. Again, if you've got comments, tips, tricks, put them in the comments. And yeah, maybe we can just get a bunch of info together, and like this will help people out with their own spraying. Yeah, but to sum up, I'm not knocking any manufacturer of paint. Like, obviously I'm comparing Spray.Bike to just this generic wet paint that I'm using. Use what you want to use. Just be wary. Watch both videos. Be wary of some of the problems you might encounter, and prepare for that, because I'm sure you can get good finishes with both. I'm actually going to do another one with Spray.Bike, this time really trying to pay attention to the finish and see how well I can get it, and I will do more with the wet paint as well. In fact, I've actually got a frame off at the moment going to Bristol Bicycle Restorations, and Josh there is going to be doing a professional respray for me, which hopefully we'll see some behind the scenes there, and you'll be able to see then what a professional respray looks like. But that won't be for another probably couple of months yet. Yeah, it takes a while. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna wrap up now. This is my experience. Completely amateur here, but I am learning. So take stuff with a pinch of salt if you want. And if this helps people with their own restorations, with their own spray jobs, then great. But yeah, with any paint job, take your time, and good luck.